The reason why I'm always telling you to hold cash in the early stages of a bull market is because there are unreleased altcoins that happen to pop up right before and just after the Bitcoin halving, aka right now, that are some of the most promising altcoins that we will find in a bull run, providing the most explosive gigapump gains. And today, I've got not one, not two, but 5 amazing altcoins I've done a lot of research on, not just to tell you how it works, which is very important, mind you, but also why I am extremely bullish on them. So with that said, everyone, pay close attention. One of these is going to be absolutely massive. And trust me, you probably haven't heard of it. With that said, guys, if you enjoy the content or you learn something new, drop a like on the video. It really helps me out. But importantly, subscribe so you can achieve your crypto goals. Here's 3 things you have to know before we kick things off. Number 1, this guy is not a financial advisor. This is my opinions only. 2 is, before all the trolls jump in ahead of me here, no, none of these projects have paid me to talk about them. I've done my research and my own due diligence. And number 3, 4 out of the 5 projects mentioned today are likely to have an airdrop. Now, I can almost say that for certain. One of these ecosystems is very similar to Cosmos and Celestia in that when the actual main project has its token released, you're going to have access to a whole bunch of really amazing projects in its ecosystem that will launch up over the course of the next 12 months or so. So as you should all know, first of all, with me, I don't like to keep these top 7, 5, 10 ranking videos basic. I like to give you as much information as possible, which you will see in a second, but there is a deeper thing behind choosing these projects. Yes, they are literally ones I have cherry-picked because they are very promising, but also they in some way work together, whether that's actually having a relationship, a working relationship together, or whether that's that they hit similar narratives. And we're focusing here particularly on 10 out of 10 or 9 out of 10 ranking narratives, in which that pretty much says that most money and the highest amount of demand will come into these areas in 2025. I'm talking about things like interoperability, gaming, AI, DePIN, layer 1 Web3 focus, layer 0, memes, well, not memes in this case, but you guys get the point. And what we're really trying to do here, and what you should take away from this video as well, is in an ideal situation, you want to hit at least one of every single one of these narratives, these 9 to 10 out of 10 ranking narratives, but if you can, 2 to even 3 times each. Now, as you'll see in a minute, some of these projects hit, more than, of course, one of these narratives. They're all highly prosperous, so they hit, some of them hit to about 8 different narratives, okay? So that's what we're looking for here, diversification among the narratives, but also doubling up or even tripling up on these bigger ones so that your portfolio moves in unison. You're not having these crazy fluctuations in days. One project kind of isn't moving up and the others are down. It's kind of all growing together. And in saying that as well, we want wealth preservation, high market cap or high evaluated projects, and also wealth creation or low valuation projects. Of course, they haven't released yet, so we can only speculate. So with that said, let's get into project number 1. And that is Hyperlane, which is the first universal and permissionless interop layer built for the modular blockchain stack. As we should all know, modularity is a very large part of the bull run so far, and it will be. We've seen the likes of, even Manta Network, Celestia, most importantly in this case, blow the hell up recently because of this. And this project is very similar to Celestia, but Celestia focuses on modularizing or compartmentalizing data availability, which is part of the consensus part of the blockchain stack. If we were to break a blockchain apart, part of the consensus. But what Hyperlane does is break apart the interoperability layer, which is also very important because, of course, if you can break this apart, and as we'll see in a second here, make it extremely unique and robust and customizable, you're going to have developers wanting to use it, okay? A lot of different interop projects are out there, but this one is most definitely different. Overall, it hits 4 out of, these top 2 bulk narrative, rankings, 9 and 10s, 2 in the 10 out of 10 rankings and 2 in the 9 rankings. So app chains to layer 3s because you can build on top of Hyperlane. Layer 0 because effectively Hyperlane is a layer 0. Modularity and interop, of course. Overall, 38 out of 40, which is more than most projects in crypto in terms of the higher top echelon. That is a nice, a solid middle ground, which is great. Now, again, how Hyperlane kind of works, it might take me some time to explain it to the newbie, so I will kind of keep this brief, is when you want to build your own layer 2, so roll up, or whether you want to build your own layer 1 even, you can pull apart the blockchain if it's modular, okay? And then you can decide to pick different parts of that stack and then decide to pick maybe Hyperlane to connect to other projects. And why you would want to do that is for a few things. Typically speaking, if you didn't decide to do this, it can be highly centralized and permissioned, meaning that you have to go out there, choose a few different nodes that are going to be in charge of the bridge between two different networks, for example, which can be difficult to find, but also expensive. They want to be paid handsomely for that. And so for you to do that, again, takes time and money, plus a lot of trust. Whereas Hyperlane allows you to do that, except permissionlessly, which means anyone can become one of these bridge nodes and, validate a bridge, which is important because billions are lost every year in these bridges. And so what Hyperlane says is, we're going to allow you guys to connect together, build your own consensus mechanisms together. For example, if Neo wants to connect with, or a dApp on Neo wants to connect with Solana, they can do that, but they can decide to have a very unique and customizable consensus mechanism that is unique to those two projects. Whereas, Neo Protocol might want to interact with Arbitrum, and they might have a different consensus process depending on the different virtual machines and all that sort of stuff. So again, highly customizable, but also secure cross-chain bridge. So again, connects to any virtual machine over here. Most projects run it in an EVM in some capacity. Layer 1, Layer 2, and Layer 3s. You can build applications on top of Hyperlane as well. And the really beautiful and unique part about all this is kind of created by a project called Enjin Layer. You'll see in a second, Enjin Layer is part of this list, and it is the biggest project, kind of spoiler alert here, that you will likely see in this bull run. And it leverages it because Enjin Layer basically takes all of the consensus pool, all that stake in Ethereum, and allows those validators to then use it to, secure things like Hyperlane's bridges, which is fantastic, okay? It's economically insured, which means that if there was a bridge hack, users of the bridge can rest assured that these validators will be slashed. They'll have their funds taken off them, and Hyperlane will give that back to whoever lost funds in the bridge. So these people are incentivized to make sure things are secure, and it also, again, allows that sovereign consensus to happen. Again, you might be, Cardano here might have a different sort of consensus protocol for each different one of these chains. So really unique. It's kind of like Moonbeam and Axelar joined forces. So if they made love and made that baby, and that baby was an absolute Chad. But good news for Celestia stakers. If you guys wanted to get into the airdrop, No Sleep John over here is a developer, part of the ecosystem on Hyperlane, and he has hinted that there will be a Hyperlane airdrop given to the Celestia stakers. You're going to have to obviously use some of the chains and apps on Hyperlane, and of course, possibly even stake your Celestia tokens as well. So again, make sure you go ahead and do that, and you're going to probably have some tokens in a fantastic future project. Project 2 is ZKlink, a multi-chain roll-up infrastructure based on ZK technology. Already, those of you who know what is coming in terms of demand for the bull run have your fingers already twiddling. Developers can build on a unified multi-chain, multi-purpose ZK roll-up middleware secured by zero knowledge. I know that sounds kind of complicated. I'll break it down a little bit more in a moment here. So this hits 5 massive narratives. Actually, the score overall is much more than Hyperlane. 49 out of 50. So 4 of these 5 narratives are, of course, 10 out of 10s, and 1 being app chains is number 9. Again, it hits interoperability, modularity, layer 2, ZKPs, and those layer 3s as well. So it can get quite complicated. You can kind of see ZKlink as what the name says, zero knowledge link. It links a whole bunch of layer 1s, layer 2s, layer 3s all together and allows a unified interface. So it's kind of similar to Neo Protocol in that sense. Maybe even you could argue ICP on a very broad basic level. So they're trying to unify crypto, which is very important. So multi-chain liquidity aggregation across layer 1 blockchains and layer 2 rollups. This means if you have an application like Uniswap built on, let's just say a layer 2 and a layer 1 as well, and then of course fragments liquidity, you have to have different liquidity pools. One might have more liquidity, one might have less. this allows them to be unified in one. So you only have to worry about, the overall TVL, which is of course great because less slippage and stuff like that. Quick multi-chain product deployment with built-in SDK and APIs, so you can build a multi-chain application like that connects to many different things. And also a trading-specific ZK virtual machine powering high throughput, low-cost app roll-up solutions for high-performance financial applications for things like order books and dexes, okay? So again, it just allows for things to happen very fast is what it's sort of saying here in this case. So I was going to try to break this down in a nice, beautiful graph like I will with the next projects, but I think this summarizes things quite easily for me. Narrative asset aggregation is kind of like the first one over here. So applications using ZKlink rollup infrastructure will be able to access and list the native tokens across connected layer 1s and layer 2s, including all types of tokens, NFTs, or fungible regular tokens, allowing users to trade multi-chain assets on a unified interface. Again, like they explain over here, instead of you having to go from, let's just say, Ethereum Uniswap deployment to a Polygon Uniswap deployment or whatever it might be, and having to trade and swap and it's all done in one wallet, in one interface with one sort of bunch of liquidity, okay? It's not breaking it all apart. It's great. And this is what we've been waiting for a long time now. Number 2, as I mentioned, liquidity aggregation and unification. So tokens of the same kind, this is big, issued on various chains will be merged into a single token, fostering unified, aggregated liquidity. Can I say hallelujah? This is amazing. If this actually happens, this is going to be great. You guys have used any sort of DeFi or cross-chain tokens, airdrops, whatever. If you've used crypto, you know how annoying it is when you have to use the platform, sign into MetaMask, do a bridge swap, and then different protocol, and then bring it over to a normal DEX, and then switch into your token, and then maybe bridge it back through the different. It's a mind F, basically, right? And so this allows for example, ETH derivative on Binance Smart Chain, ETH derivative on, let's say, Near Protocol, and ETH on ETH to all be merged and unified into one ETH token. Fantastic. And also customizable app rollup deployment. So ZKlink is focused on the development and execution layer plus settlement layer, and will integrate third-party modular solutions for DA and sequencing, allowing developers to customize key components. So they're allowing, again, people to build layer 3s on top of ZKlink or in the middle of ZKlink to instantly connect with these layer 1s and layer 2s, but make that customizable as well, like alt layer. Overall, modular, ZKPs, it's looking to unify things that we haven't seen before. This could be massive. I tried to participate in the sale over here on CoinList. I missed out. Very small allocation like Mina Protocol once was. About 45% of the distribution going out to things like third parties, private purchasers, CoinList sale, team and advisors, but they're on very long vesting schedules. So overall, nothing to complain about. Get ready, guys. This one's coming soon. Now, Project 3 is the big one I've been hinting at for the longest time in this video. It's called EigenLayer. And if you don't know what EigenLayer is or how it works, please pay attention. So EigenLayer is a protocol built on Ethereum that introduces what's called restaking. When you hear the term restaking, chances are it's referring to EigenLayer, a crypto first for security, enabling the reuse of Ethereum on the consensus layer. Now, this hits 6 massive narratives. As you can see here, the score is 58 out of those 6. So interop, modularity, layer 2, data availability, cloud infrastructure, and app chains. So let's explain now how it works. We all know Ethereum over here in the middle, okay? Ethereum has something called consensus. All blockchains have consensus. And so to become a validator and be part of this consensus process, which you might want to because you're economically incentivized to, because you get ETH back, you get rewarded. It does a few different things. So you can become a validator yourself, right? You can decide to do it yourself, which is quite easy for your computer. Almost anyone can run it on a laptop. And the only difference is you have to have a minimum of 32 ETH to do that, which is quite a bit of money. So you don't have many people doing this themselves. So most people opt for what's called a liquid staking protocol, okay? So like Lido over here or Swell, what they do is say, hey, we can get any small amount of Ethereum that you might own, 1, 0.5, 20, 0.1, whatever. You can stake it through us and we will, get the tokens back for staking in Ethereum, and we will give you some rewards back for doing that, a proportion to how much you actually put in. but mainly what they give you back is something called a liquid staking token, or LST. And in the case of Lido, it's called STETH. For Swell, it's SWETH. There's a whole bunch of different terms for whatever protocol you might be using. And so you can use these tokens, these liquid staking tokens, in DeFi. That's what it allows you to do. So you can put it up in a lending protocol. You can even borrow against it, of course, which just means that if you borrow and you lose those tokens, you have to get these tokens back to unlock your ETH. Otherwise, it's a money printing machine. So that's what you have to do. But again, it gives you access. You might want to use the liquid staking token to get more yield on. So you're earning yield and rewards back from the staking protocol, but also from wherever you might want to stake it on a DeFi protocol, for example. So it gives you more functionality. It lets you put your ETH to work in more ways than just getting passive rewards from it, from these protocols. That's why they introduced it. But what EigenLayer does is says, hey, you guys are fragmenting all this ETH you're all putting in here. Why don't we put it all together? We leverage all this consensus staked ETH. Let's allow you to not just use it in DeFi, but other ecosystems. Let's let you secure other protocols with your liquid token. So it takes all the fragmented ETH from these different parties over here, used for consensus, and allows it to be pulled together for all or other networks to use it in more ways than one. So I've done the example here, added up all these little ETH amounts. Let's just say it's 149 ETH. It's likely a lot more, of course. And the term restate comes back in because it lets people with ETH or liquid staking tokens to then use it in any EigenLayer based network, which, as you can see, Hyperlane is one of them. So one is called Espresso over here, allows decentralized sequences to happen for rollups, which is basically, for rollups, right, everything passes through typically a single sequencer, which pretty much creates the blockchain for individual layer ones. Like, for example, Arbitrum, that's why it went down not long ago, because that one sequencer went offline for a bit, and that means everything passing from Arbitrum into Ethereum had to be postponed. Well, if we decentralize the sequences from EigenLayer and allow more of these people to validate like this, it's going to allow that to be more decentralized, like layer 1 protocols. Also, of course, Hyperlane, this allows them to have, as I mentioned before, custom consensus depending on the different networks, and also allows, of course, individual people to validate the bridges with that ensured interoperability. And something like Mantle, which leverages another part of EigenLayer, which is their data availability, like Celestia, to basically have cheaper and faster consensus. There's multi parts of EigenLayer, and I'm telling you right now, if you're not someone trying to get involved in EigenLayer, you are going to be very, very sorry. You're going to want to subscribe, as I said, because I'm looking to make a full deep dive on this. It's very similar to Cosmos and also Celestia in the fact that there's likely going to be access to some of those protocols I just mentioned to you moments ago, plus there's a whole heap more. And when these launch their tokens, it'll likely have to go through. We at least have some sort of airdrop from staking and using EigenLayer. Please go ahead and join the private community down below, because OX, Kiwi, and Maximus as well, those guys do airdrops almost every day, and they will be keeping you up to speed with the situation with EigenLayer and their associated networks. Project number 4 is Layer 0. And before you guys decided to skip this, because yes, many people have made videos on Layer 0 before, please take the time to actually learn how it works, because I knew about Layer 0. I knew it connected blockchains together. I just didn't know the scale in which it did this. It's very similar on face value to Hyperlane, but let me break it down for you. So Layer 0 is a messaging protocol, not a blockchain. It just facilitates transfers and messages between different networks, okay? So it uses smart contracts deployed on each chain to enable different blockchains to interact with one another, creating what's called an omni-chain, a single mass chain, if you will. And I hit only 2 narratives here, interoperability and also, of course, Layer 0. So 19 out of 20, but it's not the narratives that we should be really looking at here. It's the potential demand. We are talking about Layer 0 sitting beneath all other interoperability projects like CCIP, Hyperlane, Axelar, Moonbeam, and the list goes on, almost creating a universal messaging framework that all of these interop projects can also use to make things a lot more seamless. So they use the example in their documentation of it's like the transport layer of the internet, basically sitting beneath everything else. You can kind of picture it like it creates the code, it creates the very foundation of how things connect. And this is probably the best way I can describe it. So Layer 0, again, sits underneath everything else, even other interoperability projects, creating a universal communication layer for other applications also to build upon if they wanted to. You could call it a universal Polkadot or Cosmos. So that's how they kind of act within their own ecosystems, creating parachains, or Cosmos creating Cosmos connected networks. And to break it down on a different lens as well, imagine if crypto projects had to build on top of a universal layer. Well, that is essentially layer 0. So this is because even interoperability projects create division in crypto. Layer 0 allows literally everything to connect with one another. It's kind of similar to how Quant works. So yeah, even these sort of projects can create division because blockchain 1 might connect to blockchain 2 through, let's just say, Hyperlane, but then project 3 might connect to project 4 over here using Moonbeam, okay? And of course, they aren't connected. But if you have something built underneath all this that everything was instantly and already connected with down here, well, they're all instantly connected anyway. So that's kind of what Layer 0 does. And it's visualized in this example here. You can see projects can build on top of Layer 0 and then connect to different Layer 1s, Layer 2s, Layer 3s, and again, even these interoperability projects as well. It's already got a large ecosystem of about 91 applications, as we can see here, already using it, and 50 plus blockchains. And it has confirmed as well its airdrop is going to be launched, or a token at least, initiated sometime this half of 2024. I would say the snapshot's already been taken for the airdrop. You might want to participate anyway and interact with some of these ecosystem projects. I would suggest in that case using Stargate, and I've got an airdrop video on how to do that, but I wouldn't really bank on it. I think it's probably already being taken, and if you are someone just listening to this now, you're probably far better off waiting for the launch and analyzing it from there. And last but definitely not least, probably the micro cap of the list is Nilian. Nilian is a distributed computing platform that expands trustless infrastructure into new use cases. They call themselves the Fort Knox of the metaverse, basically a very secure version of the metaverse. Now, the most on this list, 9 narratives, overall 76 score out of 90, interop, AI, DePIN, Layer 0, cloud infrastructure, metaverse storage, privacy, and security. So there's a lot here, of course, diverse rankings on this list, but of course, more is merrier ultimately. So if you don't know what Nilian is, they're essentially, as I mentioned, the Fort Knox of the metaverse. They're a distributed DePIN project, but you can store anything on them completely decentralized in the most secure way possible. Run nodes, store videos, store files. Hell, even you can have the US government running all their communication through this because it's so secure. It's what's called information theoretic secure. It goes beyond any other form of encryption out there. It's well and truly unhackable. So how it works is, and this can get quite complicated, so I won't, bore you with the stuff on it all, but it's not a blockchain or a DAG. It leverages what's called secure multi-party computation, in which it takes a bit of information like a Bitcoin key, for example, and it shreds it up into what are called particles and distributes these particles to all the different nodes on the network. And then from there, typically speaking, if the nodes wanted to communicate to maybe the person over here wanted to reconstruct this key or use the key in order to process a transaction, the nodes would have to communicate and then give the key back, or, create that output, right? Sign that transaction or do whatever it might be. And then that's, of course, how it worked. But the problem with secure multi-party computation is while it's distributed very securely, it pretty much destroys the key over here and then has it all split up evenly into little different pieces amongst the different nodes. It's very slow, which is why you don't see it applied to crypto. It's one of the most secure cryptographic primitives in cryptography. However, what Nil Message Compute does is take that and boost it. So it's called Nil Message Compute. And what it does is, in the same regard, does the same thing, but in this case, doesn't make the nodes communicate. There's no actual consensus. Consensus happens on each node. Each node runs a specific thing that it's been told to do, and it's not going to act maliciously because it's just told to run some random thing on literally a particle that's shredded. It's literally dust. It means nothing to them. And of course, they just send the output out, and the output is whatever that person decides to do. So you can see why having no consensus, technically speaking here, is groundbreaking. It's instant, it's very fast, and it enables things to be stored very complicated or confidential things in a distributed way. Yeah, Nil Message Compute is the sort of consensus protocol behind it all. Now, it's, again, a lot more complicated. I've made a video breaking down this and the team and everything behind the project in a video about 8 months ago. I suggest you do watch it. And they call themselves the Fort Knox of the metaverse because it's so secure and because they can do so much, right? It's completely encompassing of not just the metaverse, but even, as I said, things like healthcare and even, government entities to be able to leverage this. The team is stacked, and I'm talking like really stacked, guys. And they already are launching some of their ecosystem without even having their public testnet available yet. They were looking to launch from last time I heard this year. And as you can see, AI, DePIN, DeFi, they're already building on Nilian. So guys, with that said, thank you so much for watching this video. Let me know which one of these 5 projects were your favorite. Which one are you going to look to get into? I'd love to know down below. So thanks so much. If you made it this far, drop a like on the video. It helps me out a lot. And until tomorrow,